I have to say that in my yard, probably 70% of the roses that I have are fragrant. Shrubs, I have fragrant miniatures, fragrant climbers. There's nothing like walking through an arbor of fragrant roses and just standing there for a minute. You can tell that they're my favorite, right? I love all plants, I love trees and shrubs, but roses are they're my thing. And I love to talk to people about growing them because so many people have that fear of growing them, that, oh, they're too hard to grow, or I've lost them before, so I don't want to try it again. But, you know, if you have the opportunity to give it a shot, you know, whether it be in a patio pot or in your yard, one thing they don't do well is houseplants. It's very hard to keep them going in the house. The little gift roses that you see that you buy at Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and so forth, you know, this time of the year, I buy them because I need to see something blooming, so, you know, I'll buy them and keep them, but I find what I have to do to keep them going is take them to the sink and hose them down every couple of days, because they get a little tiny spider mite on them that is what causes all the lower leaves to turn yellow and drop off, and that causes them to die prematurely. And they just don't get enough sun inside the house either. If you grew them under a light and hose them down in the sink about every 2 or 3 days, they're fine. But that's a lot of work too. And if anybody has any kind of questions about roses, I'd be happy, or any plants. Yes?
I was told to use bone meal for roses.
Bone meal's good. There's calcium. When I started, I used to save banana peels, and I used to put the banana peels in every pot.
Bugs.
And, anything. We used to put rusty nails because they like iron. There's a product on the market called Ironite. If you notice that your leaves are looking yellow, iron is something that's good to use. But overall, they're not fussy about soil. There's people down the Cape that grow them in sand. I've got a lot of clay in my yard. They're pretty good. I mean, if you want to be really particular, you can send a soil sample to UMass, and they'll tell you just what's in your soil and what it needs. And you just tell them on the slip that you send a paper with it that you're going to grow roses, and they'll tell you if you need more iron. But bone meal is great. A lot of times I buy whatever I can get on sale and throw it in there and see. I kind of experiment a lot and see what works. Yes, sir.
The philosophy's after my own heart. A question, I got shrub roses now. You said some of those are fragrant. I know most of the knockouts don't.
The knockouts are not heavily fragranced,
Yeah.
because it's almost like a lot of the hybridizers, they concentrate so hard on one thing that they kind of lose something else. There are others. I have a line of shrubs in my driveway. You're all welcome to come to my house anytime. I live on Marblehead Street, so if you want to drop by in the summer when anything's blooming, people do just come and take a look. And most of them are marked. If the dogs don't take the markers away, most of them are marked.
I got about 70 of them, and I mark mine too. So.
Yeah, my dogs pull up the markers and run away with them, so I lose markers all the time. But I do have, there's a shrub rose, there's a yellow one called Golden Unicorn that's fragrant. I'm trying to think of one of my particular favorites, and of course I can't think of it. Cherry, oh.
Cherry parfait.
Cherry parfait is a grandiflora,
Yeah,
but there's
fine.
another, I
Yeah.
have another, it's, I'm terrible, I'm getting very bad. But, you can check in the catalogs, and the Austins, the David Austin roses, they're classified as shrubs.
Yeah.
And they are
But you're right, they all have that kind of a blossom that isn't.
the
I
big.
mean, I'd have
Yeah.
heritage in a couple, but
Yeah.
they're pretty, but don't look like a real
I have another shrub, bonanza, that is fragrant. Fragrant is not always my top priority, because I've got some that are so fragrant that they're almost enough for every, that area. But, and you'll almost notice too that they might be more fragrant in the evening. Sometimes the flowers are more fragrant, it seems like, when you bring them in the house. Weather conditions, even soil. There's a rose that's famous called Sentimental.
Got it.
And it's a floribunda, it's a beautiful rose, but mine has absolutely no scent. There's nothing. I get nothing from it at all.
I got some in mine, but,
Yeah, and that,
not as much.
one of the most fragrant roses, in my yard, and this is a shrub, it's called Out of the Blue. Try that one, if you like, it's a mauvey purple color. It's a very hardy rose, it's a great shrub. It's not all that well known. They have it at Roseland Nurseries in Acushnet, Mass. That's where the New England Rose Society purchases their roses. It's also where a lot of the nurseries get theirs. But it's a New England nursery, they do the potting there. And they carry a lot of the shrubs as well. But Out of the Blue is wonderful. It blooms almost constantly, and it's a beautiful, almost like a mauvey purple color.
How about shade other than Zephyr and Druin, which seems to do pretty well, but other than that?
Zephyr and Druin is the one I recommend right at the top. I had a list of some other roses that will do fairly well. I find that some of the roses that have less petals do a little better in some shadier locations. I've got some in the shade. Sally Holmes is a shrub that will do fairly well. I have some of the very small flowered shrubs, Ballerina. It's a little tiny pink flower. Even the fairy is a polyantha shrub, and that will do okay in a little less sun than some of the others. I've got miniatures in some shade, and they do okay, but if you have the same plant, you get more flowers in the sunnier location.
Is there such a thing as a thorn bush? Just thorns? Well.
Just thorns?
Just thorns. When we moved to North Reading probably 50 years ago, and I'm on a corner lot, and there was a house next to me, because on the other side was a swamp. And the man that lived next door had beautiful garden, roses, everything. But he put all his cuttings on my lot, what ended up being my lot, on the corner, in the swamp. Well, as a result, I have a lilac bush, I have iris, I have this thorn bush. Thorns, that's all.
It's probably multiflora. Multiflora is a wild species of rose, and it was commonly used for the rootstock. Especially before they started using the Dr. Huey rose for the rootstock, they used a lot of multiflora. So he may have tossed, and multiflora, even cane cuttings will take root of multiflora. It has itsy bitsy tiny white flowers that are very insignificant, and they're out for such a short period of time you might not notice them.
Well, this thorn bush is next to my mailbox, so I cut it back, and I make crowns of thorn, and I give them to the CCD teachers so they will show what Jesus Christ had to wear. So, anyway, there's one use for the thorn.
You're making use of it.
Right.
It could be the multiflora. There's also another plant that's related to roses called terracantha, and those have some vicious thorns on them too. It could be that. That's a little less common because a lot of people don't want to grow that. And then there's the god-awful blackberry bushes. I have those. And they spread with their roots underground and they come up everywhere and we weed whack them and we do everything we can to get rid of them. But there are actually some rose bushes that are thornless. This gentleman mentioned Zephyrin Druin. Zephyrin Druin has very few thorns. It's probably one of the least thorned roses. And they're nice to put on an arbor for that reason, because you don't have to worry about them grabbing, reaching out and grabbing you every time you walk through. Because a lot of climbers will do that if you get too close to them. Anybody else here grow roses?
I do. I had one lonely rose bush, Doris couldn't answer, and I left it there all winter, and it's coming up.
Good.
There's nothing on it. Should I cut it off?
Not now. Wait until you see the forsythias blooming. It's early yet.